Now for starters, we get to do some pretty cool jobs. We get to work in some really cool places, build cool things, and at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff we do is going to be seen when we're done. Unlike other trades where a lot of their work is running cables and pipes that you'll never see once the job's completed. But I know the main question you want answered though. Do carpenters get paid enough to make all of this worth it? We'll get into money in just a second, but in terms of the work we do, I've just gone through and shown you some of the best jobs I've worked on. And obviously building cool things like this makes a trade really worth it. But there's probably more bad jobs and bad days than there are good days. And by that, there's a lot of dull, unsatisfying jobs, such as straightening a house. You might spend a whole day straightening walls, and by the end of the day, there's not really much to show for it. But even in terms of some of the cooler jobs I've done, such as building this bench here, or even cladding this house, these are some of the coolest jobs I've done in the past 12 months. And even building stuff like this, there's so much repetitive, tedious work, and a lot of bad days where you just don't want to be doing it. For these shiplap cladding boards, I absolutely loved installing them. But there was quite a few days of work just going through, straightening the external walls, putting nogs at every 450mm intervals. And those days felt like they dragged on for ages. I hated those days. But then when you get to come through and then add those shiplap cladding boards on and see the final product, it does become worth it in the end. And the same as building this curved bench. Obviously, because of the curve, I've had to rip every single one of these boards down on a slight angle. So there's so much work cutting them to size, bringing them over here, working what angle I got to cut them on, bringing them back to the track saw. And for the first few, it's really exciting. You get to see what's going to happen. But as I go through and do this entire bench, it becomes so tedious, so boring, but it becomes worth it at the end when you get to see this final product. But that's also where I think carpentry is one of the best trades. Doing things over and over isn't something that's just subjected to carpentry. Any trade you do, or even any job you do, you will have some same jobs that you're going to be repeating over and over again. And the good thing about carpentry is that it's so broad, it's so vast. There's so many different jobs you can do. I could spend 1 week here working on this bench, the next week doing that shiplap cladding job, the week after that I can be framing a house, doing different types of carpentry, engaging my mind in different ways and building cool things every single day. When I started my apprenticeship, I was doing nothing but frames. I spent about 2.5 years doing this, and to start with it was exciting, it was something new, and by the end of it, as much as I loved framing, I hated being there. It just felt so repetitive by the end of it, where every day was the same, just doing the same thing, smashing it out, moving to the new job. And I know people that were in a similar position doing other trades and they ended up hating it and quitting the trade. Being a carpenter, I ended up leaving companies and found another company that does a larger scope of work, and I was able to do all different parts of carpentry. And now when I come back to do a frame, I feel fresh. I've had a good enough break from doing it that I'm actually excited to be there, and now framing is one of my favorite parts of carpentry. All right, so the main factor, the most important factor, is the money. Obviously, you got your sparkies, you got your plumbers, you got your licensed trades, and they're going to be paid the most. When I say paid the most, I mean as an overall, as an average from everyone working in that trade. Now, I know a few people that actually went out and became sparkies because they heard that the money was good. They obviously want to make good money, who doesn't? And they went down that route and did their apprenticeship. And when they finish their apprenticeship, their first initial salary is probably going to be higher than a chippy who's just finished his apprenticeship. But if you finish a carpentry apprenticeship, if you're a carpenter and you actually enjoy what you do, you're driven to learn more and push yourself even more, you can continue your studies and go and become a builder and make even more money than what a plumber or a sparky could make. But even if you don't want to be a builder though, and this goes for any trade, if you're passionate with what you do, you're probably going to rock up, you're going to be invested in what you do, you're going to do a good job, and you're probably going to earn more and be worth more than someone that does a better trade, a higher paying trade, and just doesn't really want to be there. So I think one of the main important things if you want to do an apprenticeship, do a trade, is you got to find something that you can see yourself enjoying, not just for the money. Because a lot of people I know have gone through that route, became sparkies, and now they've quit that to go find something else. Personally, I actually did a pre-apprenticeship course to be a sparky. I was on that same bandwagon, hearing sparkies get paid well. It seems like a good trade to do. Did my pre-up for that, and then I went looking for apprenticeships, and I kind of thought about the day-to-day, the work we'll be doing. If I was at Sparky, I might be just running cables, drilling holes, running cables, installing power points, doing the typical stuff that Sparkies may do. And then I had a look at the stuff Chippy's doing, and you're building the entire house, you're building cool things you can be proud about, and that kind of leads on to the next thing. This is in my backyard. I've now got the skills to build cool things like this, and I've got so many more projects, stuff I want to build. I think being a chippy is perfect if you do have dreams to renovate a house, flip a house, become a builder, do so many different things. Then I moved into this house about a year ago now. That is an issue about being a carpenter. There's too many projects you want to do in a house. There's too many things you can do. In all honesty though, it's so good to have all the tools I need and enough knowledge to be able to build kind of whatever I want to in the house. And that's one of the great things about being a carpenter. You can be creative with the trade. I had an empty corner in my house, no idea what to build there. And I just started jotting down some random ideas until I thought it'd be cool to try to build something that I've never seen done before, a curved bench in that style. And being a carpenter and having the fundamental knowledge and all the tools I need, it makes it so awesome that I can just be creative, have some fun, and build some cool things.
Thank you so much.